couldn't be a bigger in tray for the incoming president from the Middle East to the situation in Ukraine, Putin, China eyeing up Taiwan. Is Donald Trump really the man to solve these issues? You're going to have European capitals in meltdown this morning at the prospect of him coming back and making them open their checkbooks for NATO membership. Are you worried at all that, he's bitten off more than he can chew here?
Well, again, you've got to look at the results rather than the spin and the propaganda. The last time he was there, you didn't have Putin invading other countries. You didn't have Iran financed and emboldened and financing all the terror that you've seen both on October the 7th and subsequently with Hezbollah and so on and the Houthis. So, and China wasn't nearly as aggressive in the South China Sea, threatening and menacing Taiwan. So the message that Donald Trump has projected so clearly in this campaign is that we need to get back to the idea of deterrence. And this very simple phrase that actually Reagan used as well, peace through strength. That was the idea when Trump was there before. And the allies in Europe and elsewhere, if they have any sense, will realize that actually, if this result that we're looking at tonight is the final result, that's actually going to be good for their interests.
He's going to have to do something, though. You're talking about deterrent. He's going to have to show that there's a new sheriff in town. I wouldn't want to be a Mad Muller sitting in Tehran right now with him.
Well, the Iranian regime. Well, that's exactly why we've been hearing about Iranian hit squads in America trying to take Donald Trump out. I mean, there's probably no single regime. I mean, you're quite right to bring it up. There's no single regime anywhere in the world that is more directly threatened by Donald Trump than if he's the next president, than the genocidal maniacs who are currently running Iran. And so I think, and funding terror across the region. And so I think that's exactly right. That's probably priority number one in terms of the foreign policy situation. Of course, he said that he's going to be able to sort out the Ukraine conflict very quickly as well. So we'll see what happens there.
Well, the first line of an art of a deal is got to negotiate from a position of strength. So hopefully that won't mean pulling the plug on Ukraine when just when they need it the most. Do you think do you believe the hype that he's going to spend the first 6 months of his presidency essentially opening himself to allegations of being soft on Putin again?
No, it's the opposite. And actually, look at the record. I mean, he was the one that actually he's the one after Obama and Biden, when they were in the White House for those 8 years, refused to send arms to Ukraine. It was Trump that made that possible. If Trump hadn't made that decision, Ukraine wouldn't have been able to resist in the early days of the invasion. Trump did that, not the Democrats. Similarly with the Nord Stream pipeline, it was Trump that put sanctions on that to stop Russia being able to finance its war machine. And it was Biden who took the sanctions off. So again, all this talk about is propaganda. If you actually look at the facts and the results and the reality, the Putin knew where he stood with Trump and didn't try it on. And actually, Trump made the argument very forcefully to Angela Merkel and to the rest of the Europeans. What are you doing? Why are you doing business with Russia and buying their gas and doing this pipeline? You have the former Chancellor Gerhard Schroeder on the board of Gazprom and so on. I mean, it's just a ridiculous. It's the opposite of the truth. And I think that, again, what you'll see is foreign adversaries respecting a strong leader in the White House, which we haven't had, sadly, for the last 4 years. And it just is a testament to his personal resilience. But also, I think the really interesting thing is how he's completely reshaped the Republican Party and turned it into something that I used to talk about back in the day when I first started really commenting on American politics, joining Fox News. It was soon after Brexit in 2016 when Trump was elected in later that year. And I spoke about how the Republican Party had the opportunity to become a multiracial working class coalition. And that opportunity has turned into reality. And that is the real story here. The complete transformation of the Republican Party into a party that working class people support, and also working class people right across the race spectrum, especially Latinos. I'm talking to you from California. It's the largest group in California, Latinos. 40% of California is Latino, 56% of kids in public schools are Latino in California. And so what's really interesting is the way I mean, you go back to when Obama was running against Mitt Romney, he had like a 50-point lead over Romney among Latino voters. Now, among Latino men, Trump is ahead. So it's an absolutely historic transformation. And I think we're just seeing the start of it in terms of what this means for the future of American politics.
Isn't this yet again another spectacular miss for the mainstream American media, the polling
100%.
firms? I mean, there's got to be some form of steward's inquiry into this one to get it so wrong again. And it's completely skewered all coverage of this election campaign.
Well, it shows you just how out of touch and elitist they all are. Like they find the prospect. They thought it was inconceivable that Trump would win, and so there's been this non-stop barrage of utterly vile anti-Trump propaganda, not just against Trump personally, he can take it, but against his supporters. They really were calling his supporters fascists and Nazis and garbage and all this kind of stuff. The contempt from the mainstream media, the elite in America, has just been something to behold, worse than it's ever been actually this time around. And so this is such a fantastic rebuke to all of that. And it shows that in the end, people are not just going to be lectured by these elitists when they know that their lives were better when Donald Trump was president, worse when the Democrats were in charge, and they want to go back to the good times.
I mean, if anything, it was counterproductive for them, it seems.
Yeah.
Giving them a good dose of Trump supporters, a good dose of the Millwalls of everyone hates us, and the result seems to be
exactly.
They don't care.
Exactly. More than that, they want to show, look, we're not going to be bossed around by you. We're not going to be told what to think. We're not going to be patronized. And I think one of the really interesting developments in this particular victory, which I think we haven't seen previously, is the really broad cultural coalition that Trump built. It wasn't just this class realignment, working class people massively shifting over, the blue collar vote really backing the Republican Party in a way we've never seen before, Latinos and so on, as we've discussed. But it's also the cultural phenomenon, the way that you've seen these really big, folk heroes, actually, the coalition that Trump built, whether that's Joe Rogan on the eve of the election endorsing Trump, Elon Musk, of course. There's a whole bunch of figures. I think it was really interesting the way that RFK Jr. and a whole bunch of people associated with him were so important in the Trump campaign. It's a really interesting and broad movement that says, look, we can see that these far left policies have totally failed. We can see that Kamala Harris is basically a fake candidate. She won't tell you what she thinks about anything, won't answer direct questions. Her speeches read as if they're written by ChatGPT. It's just a string of platitudes. We're not falling for it. We want the policies that delivered peace and prosperity, rising incomes, in particular for working class people, no new wars that America got into, China and Putin and the Middle East, relatively peaceful when Trump was president compared to the chaos we've seen in the last 4 years. So in the end, the real beauty of it is that the facts and the substance and the reality won out over the BS and the propaganda.